All right, good evening, and welcome to the Town of Derry's Town Council meeting. It'll be a budget workshop for April 3rd. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Council Webb, can you lead us off, please?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to say the emergency exits in the back of the room and behind Mr. Karen. If you need help in emergency, please ask for help. And if you have any cell phones or anything, please put them on silence. Right now we'll do roll call. Council Chase.
Good evening.
Council Mojay.
Hello.
Council McEachran.
Good evening.
We have Town Administrator, Mr. Karen.
Good evening.
Incoming Administrator, Mr. Fowler. We have Council Webb.
Good evening.
Council Spencer.
Good evening.
We have our Town Clerk, Ms. Tina Guilford. Guilford? I always pronounce your name wrong. And I'm the Chair Pro Tem, Dave Granessi. The Chair, Council Foot, is at Pinkerton at a show. Strutting his stuff. So right now, we're getting into the budget workshop, FY26, Executive and Finance. Mr. Karen?
Thank you. This is the first budget workshop scheduled for the council. Tonight, we're scheduled to review all individual departments with the exception of police, fire, and public works, which the council is scheduled to review those Saturday morning, starting at 8:30 a.m. And planning, there was a conflict with the planning director, so we'll do the planning budget at your next council meeting, same time we do the capital outlay. So what we try to do is try to schedule the presentations according to the order in which in your budget book, so you're not flipping back and forth. And so the first one is the administration budget, which the actual budget is on page 32. I think, oh, yeah, you want, thanks. And that budget is actually down almost $50,000 for two reasons. One, we had a number of one-time spending programs in there last year. The first was a TA transition, no longer required. And also, we reduced the professional services line by $32,000. We had completed a wage study per one of our collective bargaining agreements, and also we'll be wrapping up the fire department succession planning, which we funded last year as well. So the FY26 request is $687,370, and that's down from $731,657. And this budget essentially funds my office and human resource office as well.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Council McEachran?
So Dave, the only real change here that I'm noticing is, just as you stated, it's you and Mike, right?
Right.
All right.
And professional services as well, which is line
What do we-
390.
What do we do professional services?
We had funded a wage study, which is a result of one of our collective bargaining agreements back in several years ago, and also the fire department succession planning.
So we don't think we need another wage study on anybody coming up?
At this point, none are scheduled.
Pretty clear? Cool. And where are we with the 7 union contracts?
Two of the contracts were renegotiated last year,
Yep.
one for 3 years, one for 5. The remaining 5 contracts expire at the end of the FY26 year.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Also, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions?
If there's no other questions, I'll move the administration budget in the amount of $687,370.
Second.
Motion by Council Spencer, second by Council McEachran. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So we'll move on.
Next up is
Please.
Economic Development, our Director, Bev Donovan.
Thank you. I always forget to move it. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Good evening, Bev Donovan, Economic Development. Some
Good
new
evening.
faces. All right. Staffing level update, I'm pretty much a department of one. This year, we did use the services of just a temporary person to come in and help with some reporting, which I'll talk about later. And that project has been completed, so we don't need that anymore. Okay. Economic development mission, pretty much going along with the master plan, creating a short and long-term objectives for sustainable economic development and growth, particular attention to current economic opportunities and threats, continuing to align with the community vision, the goals of the economic development and planning departments in accordance with the master plan, strengthening working relationships with organizations, entities to increase opportunities and improve outcomes for Derry businesses, and to maintain a strong focus on economic development and growth for the town's commercial tax base. Just a couple of the highlights for this year. As usual, continuously monitoring the development and redevelopment projects. Most notably, we've been working on Abbott Court, the West Runningbrook District, some projects along Crystal Ave, Manchester Road, and our largest project up on Ashley Drive. We keep track of available properties and vacancies, and I counted up, I think I'm currently tracking over 120 properties for various reasons, whether owners are looking to sell or they're full-on under construction at the moment. And of course, everybody knows we'll be expecting some economic headwinds this year, so really kind of tracking what's happening in the market. I hosted and collaborated several events, workshops, worked closely with the SBA on a partner roundtable, worked closely with the Greater Derry, Londonderry Chamber of Commerce this year. I know last year that was kind of a focus as they transitioned to a new president, and things seem to be running much more smoothly, and now we're in a growth mode, so that's pretty exciting news. Also, very active in the Commercial Investment Board of Realtors, and we have, for I think 7 years now, brought the Cyborg Cares statewide event here to Derry. So it's a nice way for me to be able to showcase what Derry has to offer to the brokerage community, and they continuously choose Derry, so it's exciting. Continue to promote Derry as a place to live, work, and play. We have various marketing efforts through social media. We update the walk score, which is important for anybody looking to develop or redevelop downtown. Let's see, partnerships with the BEA, public arts projects, media outlets like newspapers and newsletters and so on. And we support and host several yearly events. The Small Business Saturday is our biggest one. The Holiday Parade, Very Derry Holiday Parade, is our biggest downtown event of the year, normally. Last year, Pinkerton and Londonderry were in the playoffs, so we were missing some bands and some folks, but hoping, I don't want to hope against Pinkerton, but I'm hoping we get some of the bands back next year. And we work closely with the chamber staff, as I mentioned, to foster growth and collaboration, strengthen relationships, and a renewed focus on workforce for this year, partnering with Pinkerton, with Community Action, with various groups to work on trying to bridge some skills gaps that we see for our local employers and help them out a little bit. And again, the job market's kind of going to be a little bit shaky, I think, this year. A couple more things. Partnered with the Greater Derry Arts Council to facilitate efforts to enhance the Opera House. We've done a lot of work in that facility to enhance and create some value in that building, which is town-owned. And the newest project for that, they're in the middle of a capital campaign to restore and replace the curtains that are over there. So keeping up with maintenance. Met with several entrepreneurs and business owners to facilitate and establish or grow within our business community through various programming, networking, resource opportunities. We saw a sharp increase this year in change of use applications. Those were up over 60 this year compared to 40 last year, so that's a good sign. A lot of movement around, and typically when you start to have some headwinds and layoffs in the community, you'll start to see more small business people looking to start up, so I expect that to grow. Continued monitoring of key economic news, banking, investment, commercial real estate, housing. Everything is volatile right now, so just trying to keep ahead of the trends and things that are happening out there in the economy. And lastly, concluded combining the Derry business listing data sets to build one single solid active business list. We started with over 2,500 listings in that list. A lot of those businesses were long gone, but we still had them in our databases here. And we, with the help of Susan Ochoa, we were able to get that list down to about 850, removing obsolete and closed businesses, making sure we had everybody who has come in over the past few years on that list, and making sure we had updated contact information for them. All right, last slide. So for fiscal year 26, basically a reduction of about $9,000 in the other professional services, from $25,000 to $16,000, for a final budget request of $181,324.
All right, thank you. Is there any questions? Council Webb.
Yeah, do you have any specifics as to what businesses or what developments may have occurred in the past year, and what you're projecting for next year that might be coming in?
Yeah, so you can drive around town and see there's a few things happening over near the West Running Brook side of town. So we've got some mixed-use projects over there. It's going to be 2 apartment buildings, some condominiums, which you can see along Rockingham Road now, and then 2 commercial buildings toward the front. Those are under construction. Down at Schutt's Corner, there's Derry Plumbing and Heating that is also under construction. Of course, the fire station, which is not anything that I've worked on, but there's a lot going on that side of town. Crystal Ave, the Bangor Savings Bank, is getting near completion. They're working on the inside now. I expect that to be open this summer. The former Wendy's should be coming down soon. They've come back to the planning board to just finalize things with Liz, and we'll be seeing probably a training operation for the fire department there, and then that building will be raised and they'll start that project. Across the street, Bobby Marcotte has come back now with the Tuckaway project, so we're excited about that one. Yeah, that should be great.
Yeah.
And I know people keep asking about Chipotle. Corporate-wise, Chipotle has pulled back on new locations. So for now, they're not coming. We hope that they'll pick that back up at some point and still come. Further up Manchester Road, Kelson Brewing has leased the building in front of the building that they own, so they'll be coming forward with a plan for a tap room. I'm excited to have them back in town, and we've been working closely with them. And then Ashley Drive, there's just under 500,000 square feet in 2 buildings planned there. The final negotiations for that group are in play, so we hope to see them soon to start working on their permitting process for the specific businesses that will be going in there. Aside from that, there is a lot of stuff in play around the Gateway District, Exit 4A. We're waiting for some things to shake out with the state in terms of access and so on, but I've talked to pretty much all of the property owners and people that are controlling the properties in that area, and there's not going to be any shortage of projects. The only issues and obstacles really is going to be what happens in the real world with pricing and everybody's watching that, tariffs and costs of goods and, yeah.
And the last question goes with the other thing that's needed for economic development, which is the labor pool. I know New Hampshire has excellent access to the education and educated labor pool, but do you think that there is, but the cost of that labor pool and the fact that really our unemployment rate is extraordinarily low, is actually keeping development down?
So there's a few things. One of the obstacles we face, and I hear this from our medical employers mostly, it's hard for them to attract people being so close to the Mass border, because just over the border, you know, there's a lot of opportunities and sometimes different pay scales. I keep watching what's happening with a lot of our students in the southern tier. It's not just here, it's Salem, it's Plastow, Wyndham. We lose a lot of students over the border as well to some of the community colleges down there in the UMass Lowells and so on. That's an issue. So I've been trying to work with some some folks at the state about that. We've talked to several colleges. We've been talking with Pinkerton. I talked to Community Action about that. So we're looking at ways to kind of boost the skills gaps that we're seeing right here. It's a process. It's a process. The other issues are housing. We're hearing that all over the state. There's not enough housing.
Right. Yeah, housing is nationwide.
Yeah, that's nationwide.
At a lot of the prices, so.
Yep. So until we address the supply issue, that's going to be a struggle. Yeah.
I just have a quick question. Because I drive around, I notice there's a bunch of vacant properties, for storefronts downtown, Hood Plaza. Now Big Lots is gone. That's a huge. I also saw that Dollar General on Crystal Ave is in the closing.
Yep.
And up at Hannaford's Plaza. Do they reach out to you, or do you reach out to them to say, hey,
Yeah.
I might have somebody interested in looking at something? Or?
Constant discussions with the folks at both of those plazas. Those are owned by REITs, real estate investment trusts, and so they're very stiff parameters for both of them. Like, for example, in both cases, the supermarkets have a veto power on who can come in there. So, yeah, it's interesting. So you can't have certain types of, you can't sell this, or you can't sell that, or whatnot. Yeah, it's interesting. The other part of that is most of those, the way that their investments are structured, they have to bring in certain dollar amounts for rents. So they don't really have a lot of negotiating power. And unless you can attract some national brand tenants, it's really hard for the little guy to go in there and pay that kind of rent.
Right.
So it's a struggle. With the Dollar General was in there as a subletter under Walgreens. And so same issue, Walgreens still has that lease, and there's a few more years left on it. So my guess is it'll either be vacant and Walgreens will just pay it, or they'll try to find another subtenant.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Other questions? All right. What's the pleasure of the council?
There's no other questions. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the Community Development FY26 budget request in the amount of $181,324.
We have a motion by Council Spencer. Is there a second? Oh, second by Council Mojay. I'm sorry to hear. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Before we move on, I just want to apologize. I forgot to introduce Mr. Owen Preventure. He's the one that makes us look good. So good evening.
Not you tonight.
No, not me tonight. I guess.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Beverly. The next one is IT and GIS.
Good evening, folks. Doug Rathburn, ITGIS Manager for the town of Derry. And for 2026, a few goals that we have in our IT department. As usual, we look to continue to provide solutions for enhanced customer services online across all our applications wherever possible. This year, some of our larger projects, we're replacing all the copiers across the entire town. We're at end of life on our lease. The copiers are at end of life. So we're looking at, in July, replacing all of those and the related software associated with those. And that is actually a CIP item. So we're also looking at this year upgrading our Microsoft licensing to provide greater security on our end and streamlined management within the IT department. We're currently on a specific tier of Microsoft licensing. We're looking at upgrading that, and essentially what it does is we're a three-person IT department, okay? We take care of fire, police, DPW, we take care of everybody. So this is huge for us as far as being able to manage the entire infrastructure and the associated accounts. So this is a big one for us, and I should add too that if you look in my revenue line, you'll see an actual increase of $30,000. So we're looking at paying for this using fund balance. So hopefully that flies. The other big one for us is we're actually replacing core switching in our entire organization. That's what makes everything run. If the core switches died right now, nothing would happen. Okay, so it's important. It's a long time coming. I want to say the existing core switching right now is at least 10 years old. It's solid stuff, but it's due for replacement, and this is the year I'd like to see them replaced before I retire. Okay. Let's go on. So these are the revenues. So most of our revenues actually come from intergovernmental transfers. So cable, water, and wastewater. Items that they use within our environment, they pay a set amount just due to the way that they are funded. GIS fees, this one is there every year. $800, that's usually for GIS tiles, and that's the surveyors and architects will actually come in and buy the tiles. We haven't seen a lot of that lately, but it's in there. The one thing that is missing is the $30,000 from fund balance to cover that software. Can everybody see that? I didn't realize how small it was, or I would have enhanced the font.
It's a good IT budgeting trick.
Right, make it small, right?
You know we're all older up here. Right, Doug?
So,
Nice try, I got a magnifying
yeah, right?
glass at home.
So line 342, one of the additions there is 3,500, and that's actually for redundant internet connection at the police department. Currently, we've got a Comcast connection over there, which is good, but it's okay. We're looking at actually running a redundant First Light fiber connection directly to that facility. One of the things that we've found recently is just on the detective side, some of the work that they're doing is causing issues with our bandwidth. And it's legitimate. It's not people watching YouTube videos or anything like that. So we need to actually up the bandwidth. Right. And what we're actually looking at doing with this is actually segregating it out, give them that Comcast connection, and everybody else will be on the First Light fiber. Line 342001, this is the big one. Actually, if you look at that, I'm not sure why I had the increase of 87,000, because the actual increase is actually 91,595, okay? And if you go below that, we're seeing software support costs across the board of between 5 and 7%, more towards the 7% piece right now. These are all vendor-driven costs. This is not due to increased employees or licensing costs. And I would doubt that we may actually see this go even higher next year depending upon the current economic climate, because these tariffs are going to affect everything across the board, okay? The new items, the upgrade to Office 365, that was the $30,000. The big one for us, it's obviously paid by fund balance. It adds OS licensing, so everybody that has a Windows 11 license, that's part of this subscription. So we'll never have to buy another Windows license. It also includes the server CALs, which basically anytime a user accesses a server, you're required to have a license to actually do that. This also includes those CALs. So once again, like I said, it really streamlines our management and what we can do with our time. Greater security features. Big one for us is conditional access. So obviously, you guys are familiar with it, the multi-factor authentication now. That's a great piece, huge piece for us. But the other thing we can do with this now is we can also determine, based on our network, who can access what. It really allows us to narrow things down and just make our footprint a lot smaller as far as with regards to any attacks or anything like that that could happen to us. The other things we're doing is we're placing some management softwares that are actually no longer supported by Microsoft. And that's pretty much it as far as that $30,000 for that upgrade to that, that software. One of the things that you will note too, within that increase in cost, $8,900 is actually a lateral transfer from the fire department. So they pay a subscription fee for a training software. And we currently pay for their time management software through the same vendor. So why not consolidate it in IT, have us pay for it? So when you get to their budget, you should see an $8,900 decrease, okay? Line 44001. You'll actually see $6,500 increase there. That's directly due to tariffs, okay? So our Dell lease this year, which is 65 computers, okay? That's what we're seeing annually for that next 3 years, okay? And that's exactly what it is for. We've seen, I want to say it was like $275 per computer as far as an increase. Now, this is leased over 3 years, but so it's a little easier to swallow, but it's still going to be an increase. And I would expect that next year when we go to, and maybe not, when we go to lease again, we'll probably see that same increase. So the prices never seem to be going down. And then 69002, we're replacing the core switching in both data centers, and that's the big hit in that line. Other than that, a couple things I'd like to point out too that actually aren't on this slide, at least I don't think they are, and then we have the copiers. So that's the budget request for $1,359,693. If I could, not to waste a lot of time here, but if you look at the telephone line, for those of you who have gone through the lines, okay, and that would be the 341 line. When you look at the summarized budget. We've got an increase of $20,000 there. $10,000 of that increase is actually an increase, or it's actually being funded by the intergovernment revenues from water, wastewater. All of their entire SCADA system, which is all the pump stations in Derry, water, sewer, everything, is now on data lines. Because we got rid of copper. They were actually copper lines going to the station, and I'll get to that in a second. We've since converted that to cell data, okay? So that, it's a $10,000 increase, but it's being offset by the intergov revenues. The other piece of that is we also, all our copper lines in town, I got an awesome letter from our provider this current year. We were paying about $12, $13 a copper line, okay, across town. All of those lines jumped in cost to $119.
Wow.
Okay, yikes, right? The carriers don't want copper anymore. They want to get rid of it. They want fiber. So, and $12 was a crazy amount to be paying for a POTS line. You don't get that, okay? So they looked at it and said, hey, where can we make money? we're going to increase it. So what we ended up doing is we took all of the fax lines, which are copper in town, and we converted them to digital fax. So we basically terminated all of those lines, okay? And you'll actually see there's a line for MFAX, which is $1,350, okay? That is basically covering all those fax lines. If we did not have the ability to do the digital fax, and we would have had gone with the copper lines, we would have seen an increase above and beyond on this line for over $11,000, okay? So this is a huge savings for us, so I just wanted to point that out. Data packages have also been added to the police department, one to the fire department, one to DPW, and that's it for that telephone line. I covered the 342 line, and the increase in tariffs on the Dell leases. So that's really, I think, all I have. Questions?
All right, thank you. Any questions? Council Webb?
No, go ahead.
I saw.
You go first.
I just have a couple of general questions.
Absolutely.
And first one's more for the public, but do you feel that the budget as it currently is structured protects the town from a cybersecurity standpoint?
I don't think the budget's going to protect anybody.
Yeah,
You know where I'm going with this.
right.
Okay, so one of the things that we've always budgeted is for the training for the end users. You guys take it. You guys have all done it. That's the biggest, and yes, I feel it has, really. And this additional $30,000 to upgrade the licensing is only going to enhance that, okay? So to answer your question, and to be direct, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think, I'll tell you, the best money we've ever invested is in that product that we use where we actually fish our end users. Okay, we do it every month. We do our training, our annual training program through that. And it's paid dividends. I mean, people are actually coming up to us and, well, Stacy came up to me and said, I had an email come in and something just didn't feel right. So they ended up calling the state, and sure enough, it was actually a phishing email. It never came from the state. So, yeah, we're good there.
Councilman Kekron?
Explain the revenue increases from water and sewer again, please.
So water and sewer, the actual increases themselves are due to we terminated the copper, Jim, and went to the cell data packages for every SCADA unit out there. So every pump station, every sewer, water, any of those. So that was a $10,000 increase, split between the two.
Well, it's almost $10,000 just in water. Wastewater was.
Mr. Chair, if we could ensure proximity to the microphone, please.
So water was close to 10.
So
Wastewater was
it's
6.
not only that, it's also, they're also affected, so we have a formula,
All right.
and I can actually show it to you. This is kind of tough to do it right here, but where anything that they use within the organization, whether it's storage, our data center infrastructure, munis, so any of that goes up gets adjusted accordingly.
No problem. So
As
I'll
far
see
as
the
the revenues.
corresponding numbers of
Yep.
water and wastewater then, right?
Yep.
Michael?
And that's across the
We'll see
board.
those
That's
correspondingly.
cable, water, and wastewater.
All right.
And that's on page 477. We'll talk about that on Saturday.
Okay, thank you. And then, like you said, significant increase other professional services. And as I normally do, and I didn't do it because I came straight from work, I don't have last year's book to do my
In the other professional
line
services,
by line comparison. Other professional services look like it went up.
we have $5,000 in there.
No. Oh, wait.
342, I think you're thinking.
Data processing.
Data
and
processing.
Oh, data
Okay,
processing, yes,
All right, so I think you went over that.
yes, yep.
Sorry. I was just kind of more curious as to that. And where I can't compare to last year, I'll hit you up privately later then.
Okay.
I'm all set.
All right, any other questions from the council?
Just wanted to, just what he had mentioned, is there, never mind, I'm rambling, sorry.
Okay. If there's no other questions, what's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to move the bottom line as shown in the documentation of, sure I get it right for you, Doug? $1,359,693.
Second?
We can motion. That's right.
I'm looking at my book.
Motion by Councilman McEachran to move the bottom line, second by Councilor Spencer. All in favor?
All right,
Any objections? Seeing none, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Next up is Human Services.
There we go. Okay, as you may or may not know, per state law, the town is responsible for anybody in or traveling through Derry and unable to support themselves. It's the RSA, I think it's 165 is the General Assistance Statute. And so we used to provide that service in-house to about 6 years ago. Then we transferred and transitioned that service, the administrative service, to Community Health Services. They're located on Shenito Road in Derry. They actually also provide this service to the towns of Hampstead and Londonderry, and we found it to be very efficient for us in that, in addition to processing, they do all the work for us. They take the intake, they check it against the guidelines, which the council periodically adopts. I think you updated our guidelines last year. And also, importantly, is they try to leverage other forms of assistance. So you see in this budget, there's really three segments to it. One is that the administrative costs to provide that service is about $120,000 a year. The town also funds about 7 agencies throughout the community, which augments our services and saves us money. That's been level funded this year at $100,900. And also, a general assistance budget is at $80,000. Now, we haven't hit the $80,000 mark in a number of years, and one of the main reasons is that last year, CHS authorized payments. Our only part of this chain is that we still cut the checks to the landlords and vouchers. Our finance office takes care of that. We expended about $48,000 in general assistance expense. And of that amount, CHS was successful in leveraging about $261,000. So overall, we had about $300,000 in assistance to residents. And of that amount, again, $261,000 was leveraged by two other agencies. Now, a significant portion of that was the tail end of the pandemic funds from the federal government, which is no longer available. So we suspect we'll be hitting that $80,000 expense this year. And you'll see in the next slide, the social service agencies, which we have supported over the years. They provide a wide array of services, but essentially a lot of their core services, if they would not receive those services from those social service agencies, they'd be coming to the town for general assistance. And because of our economic condition this year, we made the decision to level fund those folks for FY26. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions on the budget from the council? Councilman McEachran.
Thank you. So how are we set up for the future with the federal funds, ARPA, and everything going away? COVID, all that stuff's gone.
Yeah, the council, on the
are we-
opera funds, the council adopted a resolution back in December, which essentially just reconciled all the expenses. But these are other buckets of funds which were available to, mostly from the county, which came down to be available to Derry residents. And so CHS was able to leverage a lot of those funds. And a lot of them were longer-term rental assistance. And they were really laddered. Some went out as far as 18 months, some went out as far as 12 and 6 months. So depending upon the economic conditions of the area, we may see some of those folks coming on to our roles. We may not.
So I guess the base question is, I mean, things are coming from the county, but eventually they're all gonna even go away. Are we prepared? Are we in a position to start absorbing some of this? 'Cause
Well-
obviously, we gotta take care of you know, the citizens that really truly need the assistance. While I appreciate keeping everything level funded at the 7 organizations, you know, they got a lot of work coming up, and there's potentially a lot of things they're gonna have to do.
Right.
So, are we in a position that we can help them out at some point if we, I mean, you know, I have no problem approving this, but I also may wanna come back and look at it a little more and make sure we're solid here for any potential downturn or issues that may occur.
Sure. If you look at our FY '24 experience versus what we budgeted now, we have about $32,000 in excess capacity
Okay.
for assistance payments we haven't made yet. I suspect we'll be digging into those going into FY
And
'26.
so is that, and where is that in this budget, or do we keep that in fund balance?
No, it's in the budget. Yeah, it's actually,
You know, because I'm also a big fan of if there's extra money left over and somebody creating a fund in there, kind of,
yeah,
think of it as almost like the snow budget, right? We budget a certain amount, if we don't spend it, we keep it there. For the 1 year, we get a snow hit big time, right? So
Right.
we don't have that
Right.
herky-jerky motion. We could probably do the same thing here.
You could. We don't have that mechanism in place yet, but that's an opportunity you have. It's on
Yeah.
page 65. It's,
Yeah, I'm there.
okay, 1362-6001, 8100.
Yeah.
It's $80,000. That's the line which draw it to assist general assistance.
Yeah.
Customers.
So what I'm thinking is possibly adding a line item here for monies we don't expend in this fiscal year when it ends in July from this budget, just keep it in here as kind of like a mini fund balance. So that if something happens, I'd like to see that money allocated to this. And if you're estimating 13,000, I guess I'd like to see a line item added for $1 so that we can transfer in it.
But what I would suggest the council consider is to amend your fund balance policy, because right now, without further
Right.
council action, you can transfer X number of dollars into the capital reserve funds.
Yeah.
You can have an additional one saying if there's any funds left over in this line item, it goes into a general assistance
Yeah,
expendable trust fund.
all right. I will make that note then. Thank you.
I'd like to say good evening to Council Foot.
Good evening.
How'd you do?
My apologies for being late. Was that an event? Good. I
You
did the
made it?
catwalk.
You were able to strut your stuff,
I
as
did,
it were?
yeah, for a good cause.
Is there any other questions on the budget?
I'll make a motion for the bottom line of $301,644.
Second.
We have a motion by Council McEachran to move the bottom line, second by Council Spencer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? See none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up for review is finance.
Good evening, Mark Fleischer, CFO. So the Finance Department overview starts on page 67. We there? Okay. So for FY '26, the finance budget has increased over FY '25 by $20,955, or 2.8%, which is primarily personnel-related. Total compensation increased 2.5%. Health insurance premiums increased 12.9%. Workers' comp increased 22.6%. We have a budget for 5 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees, who are the treasurer and deputy treasurer. We'll be issuing an RFP for auditing services for FY '26 through FY '30. We anticipate a $7,500 increase over FY '25. There's a decrease in other professional services, which is line 390. That's due to the other post-employment benefits, also known as OPEB. As FY '26 is just a disclosure year, FY '27 will be a revaluation year, so next year that cost will go up. We have decreased our printing expense because we are now preparing these budget books in-house. We used to send them out to a printer. We just felt we could do it better in-house. Let's see, revenues are projected to be $25,600 for the year. And we budgeted estimated commercial P card rebate of $25,000. So our appropriation total is $749,557. Any questions on that one?
So I'm going to do one at a time?
Yeah, you can do it.
All right, so-
I can make a motion to approve the finance budget in the amount of $749,557.
Second.
A motion by Council Spencer to move the line, and
Second.
second by Council McEachran. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? See you none. So, assessing?
I was pausing it.
Okay, assessing, that starts on page 79. So in assessing, this is year 2 of a 5-year contract with Whitney Consulting for assessing duties. It's a minimal increase of $5,150. Our payment in lieu of taxes revenue increased over FY '25 with the addition of the solar power generating facility to be located on Transfer Lane at $20,000 per year for 25 years. Nutfield Heights continues to provide a consistent revenue as their pilot, payment in lieu of taxes, is a fixed calculation per New Hampshire statute. The printing and mailing line items have decreased for FY '26 as it is not a revaluation year. The next revaluation should happen in the summer of FY '27 for tax year 2026. The overall appropriation increased 1.7%. Total appropriation is $482,504.
Is there any questions from the council?
Yeah, I got one.
Council McEachran.
So Mark, so the payments in lieu of taxes, looks like it went up about 21,000?
Correct. So it's going to be $20,000 for the solar panel,
Okay.
and the other $1,000 is what the actual came
So
in
it's just
for Nutfield Heights.
All right, so it's just the adjustment for
Yes.
in lieu of taxes. All right, no problem. Everything else seems pretty straightforward, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to make a motion to approve $482,504, please.
Second.
Motion by Council McEachran, second by Council Spencer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? See none. Moving on to tax collection.
Stacy Beliveau, tax collector, will come up and do her thing.
Right there.
Good evening, Stacy Beliveau, tax collector. And tax collection starts on page 88. So some revenue highlights. Interest and penalty revenue has been consistent for the past several years, therefore there hasn't been a change. And the interest rates are still 8% for current year and 14% for lean years. Motor vehicle and boat revenue have been increased. We still continue to see a high amount on list prices and vehicles, volume of transactions, and convenience of boat registrations. Here at the DMC, boat registrations have increased. And sale of tax deeded property is the same as FY '25. However, we expect to sell one property during fiscal year '26 based on current town deeded property inventory. And expenditures, we are a staff of 6 full-time employees, and we did ask to increase overtime based on historical data. Overtime has increased due to staff scheduling during vacations and other absences. Postage continues to increase due to the increased volume, cost and volume of mail being processed in our office. And our appropriation total is $897,647.
Any questions from the council?
Mr. Chairman, seeing no other questions from my fellow councilors, I'll make a motion for the bottom line of $897,647.
Second.
Motion by Council McEachran, second by Council Spencer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? See none. The next one is the other municipal obligations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Prices of cars, raise the taxes, prices of boats.
So other municipal obligations starts on page 100. For the new folks here, other municipal obligations is like a catch-all for revenues and expenses that we don't allocate to other activity centers. So an example of the revenue side would be the New Hampshire Meals and Rooms tax reimbursement from the state. Also our general fund interest revenue. On the expense side, we have our property and liability insurance, we have earned time buyouts for employees, we have our debt service payments. So that's really what all this is about. So in OMO, for the revenues, New Hampshire Meals and Rooms tax is budgeted at $3.36 million, and it's based on what we received in FY '25. We're going to use ARPA funds, the amount of $437,000, and COVID-19 funds for $94,000 towards our collective bargaining agreement settlements. Interest revenue, we're budgeting at $1.1 million this year. It's based on our FY '25 benchmarks that we've been following. Well, use of fund balance, we're going to use the FY '25 surplus of $675,000, which we're going to transfer to the General Fund Compensated Absence Expendable Trust, and $1.275 million to the Fire Facility and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund for future debt service payments on the new fire station bond. Also, we're going to use $76,900 of unallocated fund balance to transfer to the capital reserve funds for capital purchases. We've instituted a 2.5 inflator for FY '26. We're going to use $18,400 of unallocated fund balance for the property and liability insurance increase. $1.385 million transferred from the Fire Facility and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund to cover the FY '26 debt service payment on the fire station bond. And we're also using capital reserve funds for the general fund capital lease debt payments. On the expense side, we have estimated earned time buyout payments related to the collective and bar agreements with roll-ups. That's an error. It's not an increase of 6.2%. It's actually a decrease of 16.4%. Our retiree health insurance premiums were reduced by $78,800. That is due to Health Trust changing to a Medicare Advantage plan, which has lower premiums. That is expected to increase, however, as the wave of retirements start over the next few years. No increase for legal expenses this year. Our property and liability insurance increased 7.1%. Again, we're going to fund that with unallocated fund balance. We're going to be funding capital reserve funds for $726,900. Our fees for regional cart transportation is $48,800. We have debt service, general fund bond, and capital lease payments budgeted. $2.137 million is going to be transferred to the Fire Facility and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund for the future fire station bond debt service payments. So the total appropriation for this activity center is $8,501,403.
Is there any questions from the council?
Of course.
Councilman McEachran.
Why not?
Sure.
So our interest revenue seems to be down significantly. Is that interest rate hit because we got favorable rates last year, less favorable this year?
Our interest presently, we budgeted $900,000 for FY '25.
Yeah, and we got 1.5 million.
And we're at about $800,000 above budget at this moment.
Yeah.
And interest rates are coming down, but they're not coming down drastically. So based on our experience of the history for this year, we decided to just bump it up a bit to 1.1.
And so the 900,000 was really underestimated in the
Yeah.
sense that we didn't think the rates were gonna go that crazy, and they did.
Right.
So now we're just coming back down closer to
Well,
reality.
we're just,
Good
yes.
enough. If there are no other questions, Mr. Chairman, I'll move a bottom line of $8,501,403.
Second.
Motion by Councilman McEachran, second by Council Spencer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is the Derry Public Library.
Oh, skipping fire.
Kathleen Kenny for the Derry Public Library.
Hi.
So I just wanted to give a quick overview, kind of the just sort of average week in the life of the library. So I have some numbers just about kind of what we're doing day by day. So on an average week, we have 2,415 patrons coming through our doors. We have 378 materials pulled to fulfill our patrons' requests. Each week, as you can see from the pictures there, we do have, excuse me, a lot of deliveries and materials coming and going. So on an average week, we have 237 items coming in, and that's just to fulfill the holds for our patrons. Each of those bins that are pictured there holds at least 30 pounds of materials, so we're keeping pretty busy. Our circulation numbers are very strong. Each week we circulate about 3,513 materials, and that includes use of our downloadable books, audiobooks, and magazines. Our public PCs are still in very, very heavy use with about 183 uses per week. We are getting 230 reference questions a week and just general questions at the information desk, about 180 per week. So the library also serves not just the circulation of materials and computers. We also serve as just a community meeting space with just space to meet, to relax, to just be. We have plenty of space for people to sit, relax. We have puzzles. The pictures over on the right hand of the slide, that is our little free art gallery where people are free to leave art that they may have created. People can take something if it speaks to them. And we also have materials available that people can bring with them to create something to share with the community. For our adult services and programs, we have, so I have a slide or a picture over on the right-hand side of all of our book groups. So we have kind of something for everybody. Some of them meet virtually, some are in person. So there's, you know, however you would like to access that, there's something for everyone. Also not part of that graphic, we also do have a genealogy group and knitting and crochet group. So there are a lot of opportunities to connect and meet with the community. For our children's services, that is a very busy department. They have daily story times. Each story time has kind of a different theme or focus, and each one has about an average attendance of 17 children and 14 parents. One of our recent events that was kind of a big draw last year, there were baby chicks that hatched, and 205 children and 103 adults came out to see that. And also on this slide, we had a recent event, a Bingo for Books event. That was one of the sort of special events that was scheduled for the February vacation week. So that was a pretty good turnout for that. And each year, the library does host a number of special seasonal events. So here we have the New Year's Eve program, where kids get to kind of ring in the new year at an age-appropriate hour. So we had a balloon drop. That was a really, really fun event. And each year at Halloween, we do the One Spooky Night event that I don't have the attendance immediately at hand, but I believe there were well over 100 children in attendance for that. So our budget request for FY26 is a bottom line $1,521,337. That is an increase of about 3.8% over our FY25 budget. The big drivers of that increase is just the rising cost of health insurance and also just the overall increase to IT costs.
All right, is there any question, Council Foot?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. So out of the 2,400 people weekly, do you have a demographic breakdown of like kids versus adults, or is it?
I don't have that number immediately at hand, so I can't really say kind of how it breaks down.
Okay. And then what about like your capital improvement stuff? I know there was some issues with some roofing issues. Is that all resolved? How does that look?
It's moving very slowly. We are working on it. Right now, I'm collecting some estimates for a roofing project that we'd like to do. So that remains to be seen. We do also have, soon to be happening, we are going to be having to replace a boiler. So I'm getting some quotes for that, and we will use capital reserve money for that.
Okay. Now, are those imminent? Are those like in dire need right now? Or are they
Yes.
something? Okay.
Yeah, the boiler less so. We did have the good timing that it decided to die right at the end of boiler season, so it's a little less urgent than it could be, but certainly something we want to do sooner rather than later.
Okay. Thank you.
Council McEachran?
Do you know what the balance is in your capital improvement fund?
Is that 173,000?
Rough number, don't worry about it.
I want to say it's about 173,000.
That's in what's in CapEx? So I noticed looking at your numbers here, so to Charlie's point, repairs and maintenance in '24 was $60,000, and now you're only anticipating slightly under 20 grand. That's a dramatic drop if there is things coming up. That causes some level of concern, but you have 172K in CapEx. I mean, everything else seems to be fairly in line, and I understand the, you got hammered in the insurance for the most part. Do we have an aggressive fundraising plan or something? I know you guys do some fundraising, things like that. Actually, both libraries do, right? You have some private fundraising.
Well, we both the Taylor Library and the Derry Library do have the Friends organization that does, they're our fundraising organization, and they do provide a great deal of support for programs. They provide our museum passes.
And does that money go into the CapEx budget typically?
No, that money goes into what we call the fine account, so that's a separate budget from the town budget.
So the other thing I noticed, line 670, we actually have gone down since '24 to a new level of spending on books and periodicals. Is that because of the digital age and we got more stuff on the computers, or?
Well,
Well, I mean, what's the general sense of that line going down?
So the digital materials are actually quite expensive.
They are?
Yeah, so
Okay,
that unfortunately
The
does not
title's a
help us.
misnomer then, right? So.
Yeah, just because we can't pick it up and touch it, it's
Right.
unfortunately still very expensive. So I'm sorry, I'm just scanning, trying to find that specific line.
2 up from the bottom of other operations on 171. So a couple of years ago, we spent just under 100 grand on books and periodicals, and now we've dropped it to 86,000. I'm just more curiosity killed the cat as to the reason.
So off the top of my head, just so you don't have to watch me shuffle papers around
all right.
for a while, one thing that has accounted for a decrease in our materials spending is AV materials for children. So we are spending less money on those materials.
Okay.
That certainly doesn't account for all of it, but it's just a difference in usage.
Thank you very much. And for the new people on the board who haven't gone through this before, perhaps you want to give them a reminder on library funding versus funding of other budgetary line items. Or would you like me to do it?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so the libraries in the town budget are treated differently than every other budget. The libraries are an independent, Dave, correct me if I get this wrong, are an independent organization when it comes to funding. They get their funding from the town, and they go through the same budgetary process, But as far as expenditures within the budget, they're allowed to allocate the monies however they want. So from the perspective of this group, we just vote the bottom line. So if something occurs during the year, these folks can kind of mix and match and move around, as opposed to anything else from Public Works or anybody else. The town administrator, if something happens, would have to come back to us and say, I have to move, pick a number. I'm taking it out of this line item to move somewhere else. Libraries are treated totally independent across the state of New Hampshire by RSA. So it's just for the, I didn't know, just so you know, as a budgetary line item, bottom line. So if you see, you'll still see the 1.521 next year, but if you go to compare the line items, they could be totally different. And then you ask the question, why? Just so you know. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, thank you. Council Webb.
I just have a real quick question. What is the Gimlex?
It's GMILKS, that's the network that the library's part of.
Okay.
It's, I believe, 12 or 13 other libraries in the area. It's the Greater Manchester area. And that's where, like those delivery bins in my first slide,
Yeah.
that's where the materials are coming and going from. So it allows us access to the materials.
So it's an interlibrary loan service?
Yes.
That's really cool.
Is there any other questions?
I'm happy to move the bottom line of $1,521,337, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion by Council McEachran, move the bottom line, second by Council Spencer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Seeing none, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much.
Next up is the Taylor Library. How was it last night? Meeting, liaison.
All right. Good evening, counselors. My name is Jen Thielker. I am the director over at the Taylor Library. I am here with Angel Fontaine, who is one of our trustees, and she's here to answer any of the questions that I can't. So, here. All right, we'll start with a couple of highlights. Our overall program attendance and book checkouts have increased over the last year. We have seen a steady increase in both the amount of attendance for our programming and our checkouts over the last 4 years since I started as director. Our adult programs in particular saw the biggest boom this last fiscal year. Primarily, we've always been the children's library, or seen that way, but we do have about a 70-30 split between our children's programming and our adult programming. Some of the new programs that we've offered are a cooking club, which is basically just a potluck club. Everyone brings a dish on theme and we eat and have a great time. We have a new partnership with Birch Heights Senior Living Community, where we will bring the books to the senior center every other week for their browsing, and they have a return box there and everything. It's awesome. They've also hosted a Valentine's Day dance for intergenerational Valentine's Day dance. We have seen an increase in the number of summer reading participants. Last year, our community read 5,927 books. That's quite a lot, which is 1,600 books more than the previous year. So it's the highest number on record by about 1,000 that I could find. We started participating more in community outreach programs. We hosted a children's activity at the farmers market a couple of times last year, have done story times over at the coffee factory, and trying to let the community know that we exist. And then there was a 14.2% increase in the total number of books checked out. So here you can see some of the graphs of statistics over the last couple of years. Blue is current year. I don't know why it flipped logical. So you see an increase in the books checked out, Summer reading participation has boomed year over year. Of course, 2021, you're still talking COVID numbers, but it has come back strong and has continued to increase. We continue to host more programs, and then our participation in those programs are even higher. To put into perspective, the state average for participants in each program is 15.43 visitors per program. We have 27.7 visitors per program hosted. So more bang for your buck. Here you can see we had a Grandparents' Day, Grandparents' Story Time. Our adult Paint Your Partner Night was an absolute riot where, artists, good and bad, got to paint what their partner's likeness was. Results were very mixed. We helped out at Pizza Stock last year where everyone was able to tie-dye a t-shirt. We've had a couple of escape rooms for all ages. We're seeing a big boom in the 9 to 15-year-old age range of patrons, which is extremely underserved. So we're very happy to see those numbers increase. That in the center is our Valentine's Day dance at Birch Heights, which was adorable. And then the lovely Mr. Ray of the DPL partnered with us on our annual campfire stories. And you can see some of the crowd in that last photo. So a couple of things that we had to work on in this last fiscal year. We had to drop 4 big trees in the parking lot at the library. The really, really, really big old one, which broke my heart to take down, dropped a very large limb right near me as I was exiting my car. It became an issue of public safety and needed to go sooner rather than later. Our storm door on the front of the library had some rotting and the handle broke off, so that was replaced this last year. We fitted an apron around the drain at the back. I don't know if you all remember, but about a year ago in January, we had a big flood. We haven't had any water damage since then, knock on wood. And then we have a better understanding and documentation of library systems, both physical and circulation-wise. With the help of Mike Fowler and his team, we were able to do a property condition assessment and are going to use that going forward to create a strategic plan rather than chase problems. And then our average collection age has decreased by 2 years. In the library world, that's a good thing because it means that our entire collection is more current and being utilized better. So we would like to request additional funds for sponsoring of a hiring an external custodial company. That was traditionally done in-house, and we found something fairly comparable, but you'll notice an overage on that line at the end of this year because we did hire an external company. It's slightly more. We also hired a regular Sunday employee. This has helped with our ability to take vacation time and cover absences. Our computers are chugging away, but holding on for dear life. So there is an increase in the IT budget. The computers that we use in the back are at the end of their life. I believe they were purchased in 2017, so they've had a good run, but they're not holding on very well any longer. And then there's been a general rise in costs and supplies across the board. We would also like to request use of our capital reserve funds first for the sills. As you see, the upper sills on the library have seen better days, but that's what happens in a 100-plus-year-old building. Last year, we were able to complete the sill replacement of the lower traverse windows along the basement, and they came out beautifully. You wouldn't be able to tell that anything happened. The center picture is letting in bugs, so that has caused some problems in the past. And then the tree stumps that are the result of those felled trees over this last month. Last month, have become very attractive for kids to jump off of, so it'd be best to grind those down. Right, so brass tacks, we would like to request $242,862. Actually, I think that's including the $4,100. Correct me if I'm wrong there. It might be. Sorry, 1 second. I believe that's including the 4,100 in capital reserves. So it would actually be 238,862. That should match the number.
So we have in our book 242,862.
Okay, right. I just want to make sure. Then that's correct.
Just-
Yeah,
right.
no, that's
Just so
that's
you're
right.
aware.
Okay, and then
Yeah, that looks like the operating, doesn't look like it includes the 4,100.
doesn't look like it does.
no.
Would that be in the capital budget, Dave?
No, actually, the 4,100 is in line 430, repairs and maintenance. You can see the
9,000, it's in the 9,950, if you open
Okay.
the details.
yeah, you can see it on page 196. That's correct.
Okay. So the funds for that we were requesting the use of our capital reserve funds.
Okay, yep.
Any questions?
Any question? Council Foot?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, I'm aware, so in the recent years, there's been some catastrophic events that have happened and whatnot. Other than the stump grinding and the painting and sills and all that, is there any other capital improvement things that you have forecasted that are gonna be imminent coming up? I know you guys have been very proactive, and a couple times had to be reactive, but on the proactive stance, where do we stand with all that stuff?
Yep. So we have one more project that we're working on this fiscal year, which was already allocated, and that's the replacement of the liner of our chimney, provided we have to wait until the heating season is over before we have the full inspection of what's being said about that, but I don't anticipate large overages. And then according to the property condition assessment that we had, there weren't any major issues that they foresaw in that. And we have basically touched on nearly all systems up until this point. Everything has been well maintained, and we're getting back onto a schedule. So we're hoping to not have any more unforeseen problems. Yes.
Thank you.
Councilman McEachran?
Same question that I asked the previous library. What is the balance in your CapEx fund right now?
Yeah. So I have the balance for that, and it's, where's my first page? It's 376,678.
300,000?
376,000, yes.
300?
And 76,000.
376,000?
Yes.
Because anything that we don't use the previous year goes into the
Goes
capital
into- yep.
reserves.
No, that's cool.
So if there are other fundings that come down on a federal level that impact us, we
Sure.
have a little bit of a buffer.
No.
But we are looking, I know you had mentioned with the previous library, there's, with not only the Friends, but the trustees always talk about like,
Right.
we're talking about doing like maybe a brick
Buy a brick.
fundraiser or something like that. That could raise money
Yeah.
pretty quickly if we needed it.
No,
You know,
but
obviously making cuts where we need to make cuts.
Obviously, $376,000 is a lot of money in CapEx, I think, particularly compared to the last group. So you have a very healthy CapEx budget in case something happens, so. And again, with a 100-year-old building, you're probably more likely to have an issue before your sister library over there.
That's true.
So, no, very, very good, and I know that's an exceedingly popular library, so thank you very much for all you do.
Any
There
other
are
questions?
No other questions, I'll move a bottom line of $442,862.
Second.
242. 242.
242.
I'm like, what? I mean, you can move it if you want, but you're gonna give us extra?
Thank you, Erin, for pointing that out. 242,862, Madam Town Clerk.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to move the bottom line by Council McEachran, second by Council Foot. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it. Next up is the town clerk.
We've been waiting all night for this one.
Page 389. 389.
Oh, she's way down. Oh, yeah, because planning, please. Town Clerk.
Good evening. So we start on page 389. Last year, I came in front of you because we wanted to expand our hours. We were originally 8 to 4. We went 7 to 4. We see a lot of traffic now between 7 and 8 a.m. Very popular time for marriage licenses. We're now running into the other end problem where we close at 4 and I'm in my office and tax comes over, Tina, somebody needs to do something. And I come out and I help them from 4 to 5. So we want to just officially be 7 to 5, which is the same as the tax office, which kind of puts us all the same down there. They come in, they call, a lot of people who move to Derry that come from another town, they think that they need to register their vehicle with the town clerk's office. Because in a lot of towns, it's the town clerk that does the vehicle registration. We're a little different here in Derry. So we have a lot of people that they come rushing in at, 5 minutes of 4, and they're like, I need to register my car. And I'm like, well, you actually have till 5, and you got to be over with the tax collector. we are forever sending people that way. Most of our increase is personnel related for that. And then we can talk about some dogs. We had a record year from 5/1/2023 to 4/30/2024. May 1st to April 30th is what they call the dog year. So I did this slide on Monday. Between Tuesday, Wednesday, and today, we've already licensed another 300 dogs in 3 days. And I expect by April 30th, we will have a significant amount of the 3,300 or so dogs that aren't licensed, plus the 74 new dogs we got today. We're seeing a lot of dogs that Derry residents have passed away, and now they're all getting new dogs. So we're getting rabies for a lot of new dogs. And we're really hopeful that residents are going to license by April 30th so that we're going to continue to decrease on the civil forfeiture income, because those are only done when people don't license their dog. So if they license their dog, we don't have that. And that's probably a good thing, and that people will license their dogs. The other things that we do, vital records, those fees are all set by the state. We've seen an increase just in the last 6 weeks, a big increase in vital records and what's called apostilles. Those are so they can be used for international. So they start with us, and then they have to finish it at the Secretary of State's office. We're seeing an increase in marriages. In fact, I'll be coming in front of the town council shortly. We're going to see if we can capitalize on that a little bit, because we only get $7 out of the $50 for a marriage license. It's a lot of work for $7, so maybe we can get a little bit more. And I don't know if you guys have any other questions.
Any questions?
Seeing no questions, I'll move a bottom line of the town clerk of Let's make sure I get it right this time, so I'll look closer. $221,318.
Second.
So you got a motion by Council McEachran to move this bottom line, second by Council Spencer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? See none. Thank you.
I think she's still here.
Yep, still
Yeah,
there.
I don't go very far. We're gonna hop a little bit forward in your book.
Slide 2 inches to the left.
Elections. So in elections, we have a big decrease in personnel, going from 3 elections in a year to 1 election in the fiscal year. I do want to make a note. There's a bill in Concord that would move the September 2026 primary to June of 2026. There's also a bill that will delay that until June of 2028. What is going to pass? I have absolutely no idea. This is, if we do have a September primary, it will probably be the last one. We definitely don't have enough time to turn over and do the UACAVAs as required by federal law. The 45-day deadline with a November election and the September primary that we have now. So it's definitely going to move. I just don't know if they're going to pull the trigger for this June, which of course will suddenly move another election into this fiscal year, or if it will be next year. And you're going to see an increase in the professional services line, which is $1,200. It said postage. I'm sorry about that. It's professional services. There is a new, there was a bill passed in the state to comply with federal statute that we have accessible voting at our local elections. And that's the white tent with the tablet for anybody that wishes to use that for voting. We had it at our local election this time, and it was a $1,200 fee. It's $600 per election. So the school is one election and the town is one election. And of course, per council instruction, we will be sending the bill shortly to the school district for their half of the election. But that's kind of a permanent thing. That's the programming for our ballot, and we will definitely have to be paying that going forward. Any other questions?
Any questions from the council?
So this is going from 3 elections to 1, potential, so do we ever go back, when do we go back to, multiples again? The reason I'm asking, Tina, is I'm kind of going back to my snow budget analogy, right? Do we want to start level funding this so we don't do this herky-jerky movement every 2 or 3 years?
We actually managed that previously by buying needed equipment.
Right.
In the off year, but Tina and I had that discussion, and Tina's election department is up to snuff in the equipment they need.
No, I know they're up to snuff, but...
Yeah, there's some tables in there and 2 universal booths. We just bought new machines.
Yeah.
We have all the pull pads we need. I'm not going to spend money that we don't need to
No,
spend.
I get it. I'm not asking you to spend the money either. I just want to make sure that we don't end up in a position with multiple elections some year. And it's mostly personnel.
Yeah.
Right, at this point, because all the equipment's in good shape.
Right, so it's
is the
personnel-
personnel significant enough that we should add a little here and put it into a little account? Or do we just absorb the bonus personnel when it occurs?
Given the state of this year's budget, I think you may have to pick door number 2. Just absorb it next year.
Okay, no problem.
We haven't got a lot of flexibility this year in the
I
bottom
know,
line. That's
no,
our
I know, but
challenge.
I'm asking my standard stock question so
Yeah.
that we don't do that
And,
sliding scale. But if you guys are comfortable, I'm fine.
we do keep track of legislation, so if that bill passes and it does move to June of 2026, we will obviously bring that to the council sooner rather than later so that you guys are aware. And we'll need to make appropriate adjustments at that point.
Okay. If
Any
there
other
are
questions?
If there are no other questions, I'll move bottom line $64,270.
Second.
We have a motion by Council McEachran, second by Council Spencer to move the bottom line. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? See none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is cable.
Pretty slow.
And I believe we're on page 407, if you're not there yet. Good evening, counselors.
Good evening.
Mr. Karen, Mr. Fowler, staff in attendance, and members of the public, those at home watching. It's my pleasure to give you a brief summary of our budget request and a couple of highlights from the previous fiscal year so you get a sense of where we are and where we're heading. This requested budget is a continuation of our previously established strategic plan that's long-term and ongoing. Those of you that have been up at the dais for a while will appreciate to hear that I think we're officially over the hump with the major overhaul of technology upgrades, and now we're into just fine-tuning and tying in various locations that we'll get a peek at later on in the presentation. We are the cable division, AKA DerryCAM. We believe a better world starts with a connected community. And every day we strive to bring you the best in hyperlocal programming to the Derry residents and provide opportunities to create and share the stories that shape our lives. Stories that are meaningful, relevant, useful, entertaining, and ultimately enhance the culture and the quality of life for the residents and visitors of Derry, New Hampshire. We operate Derry TV 16, which is a government channel you're all familiar with, I'm sure, and Comcast Channel 22, which is the public. And as of this year, we have confirmed that we also handle the signal distribution for our, which is the education channel, Channel 6, which is also under the purview of the franchise agreement and under the authority of the town, as well as provide services to the school district in the form of their school board meetings. We also operate 95.1 FM, Derry's Evolution, which is now in program development. You can tune in 95.1. You can stream online at DerryCAM.org. And speaking of DerryCAM.org, that is our initiative online that serves as a information and multimedia hub for all things Derry, so that we can provide services to residents in town, but also show the world who Derry, New Hampshire is and represent. And let's move on forward here. Whoops. Here we go. Some of the highlights and key accomplishments. You all recall the previous year, particularly in a town election, we identified trouble connecting via network, and I'm happy to say we're really moving forward in that, particularly with critical communications, i.e. elections. You may have noticed those that tune in from year to year. We've got an improved signal, and that is in thanks to the work we've been doing and my dream team has been doing to help us out, but also our partnerships with Pinkerton Academy. They've been excellent in accommodating anything we need. Their IT department there is phenomenal, as well as the administration in full support. So we're using new technologies that have been approved and implemented, including SRT, Secure Reliable Transmission, which is latest technology. So I'm happy to say that not all the work we've been doing has not only brought us up to the moment, but really future forward, and this really illustrates that. So it's a real world example of how the investments being made are paying off. We are seeing an uptick as of previous fiscal year in demand for local event coverage, whether it be partner nonprofit organizations, interdepartmental requests, you name it. we're seeing more and more demand. So it's a good sign, but as we'll get into later, we are experiencing some pressures that counter that and make that a lot more of a challenge. We are happy to say, first time since COVID, we are back in the game, so to speak, of sports programming. So we did a pilot program where we covered Pinkerton Academy varsity football, most, if not all, of the home games. We figured we'd start incrementally and see what the capacity was for that. Learned a lot of things along the way, implementing the new technology that you've heard me allude to in the past, that we are still really training and developing to implement that technology. So it's been a great opportunity to, out in a network thin area, to go out and try to bring folks live coverage from the field. We are continuing and will continue to improve meeting room here and our Studio A down in the lower level improvements to meet the needs of the community. We have improved school board coverage, youth and volunteer engagement. We are starting out with some pilot programs where we actually have some youth correspondence, which has been fun and part of our intergenerational programming. We're excited with the community partnership that we've got. We've done some new initiatives with the Rotary. We've got a long history with all the community partners in town, but there are some new initiatives that we're doing. Community Caregivers of Greater Derry, we're very excited. Can't talk much about it. It's in development and actively in production right now, where we will bring some intergenerational programming, partnering with Community Caregivers of Greater Derry. We're very happy and proud to do that. Our Opera House connectivity is moving along. Right now we're through the main connection and taking full advantage of the fiber run that existed due to foresight many years before I've been here in my tenure. But where that was laying dormant and we had that investment, let's put it to use so we can, as our theme, many will remember from our original strategic outline back 7 years ago, we want to bridge our treasured history here in Derry with a future of prosperity in line with our strategic plan for the town. And one way we can do that is connect our historic Opera House and leverage state-of-the-art technology to see what can happen there, what kind of interesting things we can bring to the community that way. So we are, and right now what's been keeping us busy, particularly this first quarter, we've been, again, shout out to my dream team. They are doing their best to manage the sort of melee, if you will, that we've got as we transition into all of these upgrades. We are over, now that we've done all the physical tech upgrades, now we need to overhaul all of, almost top to bottom, all of our standard procedures, our protocols, and all that we do. And there's a lot of dynamic change that's involved with that from day to day, week to week, and trying new things and seeing what works and research and developing that. So hats off to my entire team for their efforts there. Along with that, we have some improvements in our training and development, not only the training in particular, but how we train. So using technology in-house so that we can make things like training portals to make self-serve training so that with the limited staff that we've got, particularly on the full-time side, you're looking at it, if we can onboard staff members that come on and can gear up relatively quickly at their own pace via an online portal, that's a win-win for everybody, including our audience, and particularly in post-production training. And one thing I am delighted to announce is one of our brand new team members, Kyle Schreiber, who is a video production CTE student at Pinkerton Academy, has come on board. Kyle is wheelchair bound, and that has provided a tremendous opportunity for us to do self-assessment. And he could gain his first leadership position where he's the chair of our accessibility assessment committee. And it is in our middle name, Community Access Media. So identified, that was his first project as he came on board, and he's been full bore right into it. And you know, I like to think that we are as accessible to anybody in the community, but certainly there could be an instance where I have some blinders on. So he's my right-hand man when it comes to doing assessments, and we're going to qualified resources for to perform those assessments. And lastly, not to boast or brag, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention the team's work in receiving once again and continuing our streak in regional recognition with the Alliance for Community Media Northeast, which includes not only New England, but New York State, and of course, including the 5 boroughs, which is our heavy competition. There's a lot of cable subscribers in Manhattan. So they have larger budgets, larger teams, and for us to be even in the ring with them is quite something. So to receive 3 finalist recognition, one for all about community media, and I have a brief note on that after I explain the other 2. One was all about community media, which exemplifies what community media can do for a community. That was actually amongst all budget levels, all divisions within that competition. So we were up against Manhattan, and we were out of hundreds of entries, finals, one of 3 finalists. So we're on our way, and we're going to go all the way to the top if we keep going the way we are. The other 2 were overall excellence, where we were competing in our division, in our budget group, and we were one of 3 finalists, again, in that whole region. So very proud of that. And lastly, unbeknownst to him, I submitted one of our independent producers for recognition under youth programming, and Anthony Henry and his show received recognition as well. So he's doing great work, thanks to the opportunity he's got and the access he has to the technology and tools he needs to share his voice. So we're very proud of that. No surprise to any of us, we are experiencing some pressures. You've already heard tonight our IT director talk about rising software costs, rising service provider costs. We experience that at an exponential level because everything we do runs on either a software or a service, a warranty service or tech support. And we've got to pay for that annually. Those costs are rising and rising. We do have upcoming capital expenses to round out all the work that we've been doing. And we are as concerned as everybody is about tariffs and other effects on costs, particularly all the capital we work with is certainly imported, right? So we're looking at that. But the biggest one of all, again, no surprise, is the reduction in cable subscribers. Certainly sobering to see. I would even venture to say that we're seeing the beginning of the tipping point. There's been a downward trend for many, many years. We've all acknowledged that, particularly with the guidance and suggestion of our town administrator early on to look at trends and do projections and actually look at the rearview mirror and see what's actually been there. And that's been an excellent exercise that we've been doing annually since. It's happening. And so we want to be open about that, talk about that early. I think we're in good shape for this budget. You will see some response that we've made and recommended to the TA, and certainly he's made adjustments as well. So you'll see that reflected in this budget with that 14% reduction overall. I've taken a look at our CIP, and I maintain a very conservative approach when it comes to CIP. You will even see me doing a bulk of capital spending in the second half, and later part of the second half of the fiscal year, because I want to assess if we've got variability in our revenue streams. I want to see where we're trending for that year before I make. So we want to look at it very carefully, make wise decisions, and adjust our phasing of long-term projects based on what's actual through the year. So we're doing that daily. And you'll see, we've made adjustments this year in our capital plan. You'll see that. We need to start assessing where we can make adjustments in our services and operations that we offer. Find out what the priorities are, what the demands are, what the town needs, our audience wants of us, and needs of us, and also the goals of the strategic plan of the town, council goals, administrative goals, et cetera. As we move forward, most of our efforts are going to continue to be this coming year and probably for the next couple of years in improvements in our training and development, operations, our protocols, our procedures will be in constant refinement. We've got great strategic plans moving forward, and we want to make our current capacity as efficient as possible so that we have more room for more services as we move forward. A few particular initiatives that I want to speak to now would be the development of our information hub. So that's on our streaming channel and during cable. So that would be in between programming. We're going to see live, dynamically updated information relevant and important to community members. We hear all over the internet, social media, where people can find information. We want to continue to develop our partnerships with the different departments, get information, make it easy. We understand the challenge for departments in the town to have another task of having another place where they need to disseminate information. We've all got a tremendous amount on our plate. So we want to make it easy for department heads or representatives to disseminate information to us so that we can channel that out through all these existing channels that the town has invested in and make full use, maximum use of this and provide a service. So that would be, imagine the Derry dashboard. So if you're used to the Weather Channel, weather on the 8th, that screen pops up and you get some different icons, and at a glance, you can get the current information. So if we have a few versions of that, another example would be like Bloomberg News. If you're a finance nerd, you'll tune into there, and it's mostly data and different streams running on with a little programming in the corner. Get used to seeing some more things like that will have, again, dynamic, updated live information. That's a big goal, as well as on the government side, speaking of dynamics, making the government meeting viewing more interactive. I hear you, people at home, when you call in and you say, we'd like to have the agenda items at the bottom of the screen on the lower third when we watch government meetings, so we can know where we are. Not only do we aim to, now that we have the time and attention and focus, again, fine-tuning details over the past few years long-term, now we can not only have that, but interactively have on our website where one can click on an agenda item and immediately move to that chapter or that marker in the video, and vice versa. We're certainly looking at leveraging the technology for things like increasing accessibility through a closed captioning, right? And meeting summaries, so that if you've got better things to do than watch 2 hours of a government meeting, but you're looking for some pertinent information, specific information, you'll be able to scan a summary and see that. Those are initiatives that we really want to implement as soon as possible. We need to focus more on marketing and promotion, not only for our programming so that people are guided and the call to action is to tune in, but also what opportunities are available to them at the media center. We want to increase sports coverage, so take it beyond. We did the pilot program. Now we want to go into not only the popular sports, but some of the more esoteric ones that don't get enough love. Continue to develop processes, procedures, archiving. We inherited a lot of different media that is outdated at this point, and so with time and capacity allowing, we're going to go ahead and condense that all and make that much easier to access. So that'll be a good thing. And continue to strengthen civic and cultural oriented programming. Councilor Foote, if I recall correctly, last year you had the question to get an idea of some of the metrics that we've got. How many viewers, how many people are watching Derry TV and participating at DerryCAM? I will tell you a caveat that there are a lot of platforms that we operate, and so we're going to continue to work to get sort of a sense, like a metrics, key metrics indicators moving forward, but I can give you some numbers now. The live stream, these may or may not be cable subscribers. The live stream from DerryCAM.org, and when you go to tune in and you stream live either the government or the public channel, those are the numbers for 2024. How many views, how many times have people tuned in? Congratulations on the government channel, on the government side. You're slightly ahead of the public side by 8,000, but 328,000 views throughout the year, and 320,000 on the public side. We also, for government, this particular year, government meetings only were also streaming to YouTube. And I should say live events, for example, like a pizza stock or another live multicam event, larger events. Those will simultaneously stream out to YouTube. The advantage to that is if people are searching online or Google, YouTube is the best video search engine there is. So that's how we can start to attract. And again, going back to that promotion and marketing, that's where we want to be, to strategize and leverage those channels to gain more and provide a better service, gain more viewers. We've got 2,000, in the past year on YouTube, we've had 5,000 views of government meetings. And Vimeo, which is another platform that we do get both government and public out, we've had a total of about 3,000. And that's broken down, 3,000 views, that's broken down between mobile viewers and desktop viewers. And interestingly, it's pretty close, but there's a slight uptick, a slight advantage on mobile device viewers with about 1,600 there and about 1,400 watching on their desktop. We have 2,000 Facebook subscribers, followers, and we have Instagram is where we've got that's where the kids are. That's where we got and I'll speak to the demographic. We do have a little bit of demographic breakdown as well, but we've got some that in our site to gain some engagement on Instagram. In terms of that demographic, generally speaking, our in line with sort of the household mentality, if you think we're in households, our largest for Facebook demographic are females aged 25 to 55, with the majority there by about 60%. And the next majority would be males in that same age group, and then from there it's going into a younger audience, which we're excited to really speak to the younger audiences, to get them more engaged, not only in our technology and our world where they can volunteer and have experiences, internships, et cetera, but also we notice that when you get involved with DerryCAM, you get involved in the community. You have no choice. You're at events and you're volunteering and you're engaging, and we're very proud to say that happens. That's kind of a snapshot of hopefully helpful to give you an idea of who's tuning in. Overall value to the community we offer through this government meeting, transparency in government. The folks, we are very proud, and that is our primary mission, to provide the services we do with government meetings, and providing that access not only to watch, but to engage. It's my strong belief that we learned a lot in COVID. One of the things was having that accessibility to engage and actually ask questions or speak in public comment or speak to in a public hearing. We notice that it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's very meaningful, and particularly in important meetings where important decisions are being made. Civic engagement, nonprofit visibility, working with our partners in the neighborhood, and we're on a pretty good streak to establish and safely say that we're a leader in community media and what can be done with it, and we're on our way. There's so much more to do, and we're excited to do it, and to highlight local culture and arts. With that, we are requesting, again, basically a 14% reduction over last year to the amount of $548,249. And I would be happy to take any questions or comments.
Any questions from the council? Council Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I had a question, but you came preemptively prepared and answered my metrics question, so thank you for that. And just a comment, it just seems that DerryCAM is everywhere in the community. To your last, one of the last statements you made about the community involvement, you know, just in my experience, 9 years being here, DerryCAM has catapulted to excellence to where we are today, so that as far as the engagement and anybody that goes to any community events, there's always somebody there. So having said that, how many active members do you have on your team, your dream team, that are taking care of it? I mean, from just my personal experience, like being out in the cemetery, people showed up at, you know, early in the morning hours, and so it just seems like you're always there.
So this year, out of 12 position slots, I'll say, some of those have been put on hold in light of our current fiscal situation, but we have 7. And if I could by name take this opportunity, Catherine Marchimo, Benjamin Morris, Colleen Finn, Grace Mack, Braden Tremaine, Brady Miller, and Kyle Schreiber. Super proud of them. We also have many volunteers and interns that are too long to name, I won't take the time, and independent producers as well. So that's our current makeup. Yes, for sure and certain.
Thank you.
Councilman Kekron.
You get the same question everybody else has gotten. What's in your fund balance? Because I know you guys collect a franchise fee every year, but you also don't spend it all.
Yeah, as of the last audit, it was $313,000. We'll be drawing down about 63 on that for equipment this year, so at the end of FY '26, there'll be about $250,000 in fund balance.
What are we doing, 63,000, yeah, okay.
Right.
And then, okay, so other professional services, you went down significantly in that, so what's, I know you got the equipment, I know you got the upgrade, but what was the reason for other professional services?
You'll see that's one of our largest line items, which in some ways kind of bothers me, because I like to see things broken down into more detail what they are, but I can tell you what they are recurring subscriptions. The major chunks of those are our specialized IT for AV services, service providers, and the best engineer in the area, in the country. I can say that without hesitation. R.J. Perkins, who provides broadcast engineering services for us and does the yeoman's work in really in these major upgrades. But primarily, it's those subscription services that are going up. And honestly, that was a reaction to my sobering look at, particularly this year, from what we were expecting on the revenue side to what it looks like we're going to receive, having been past the second quarter, into the third quarter. So, yeah, so that's hence the reduction. The mode I'm in this year is we're going to work with what we can and stay within those to try to leave as healthy a fund balance as we can. Yeah.
And just similar edification on the libraries for the cable, for the new folks. Nothing they do comes out of the tax rate at this time because they're funded by the cable franchise fee. So this is a non-tax affecting budget. So I don't have to repeat it on Saturday. It's the exact same thing for water and sewer. So water and sewer are called enterprise funds. So the rate payers cover all the water and sewer. So so when you hear the big numbers floating around, it affects rate payers only, not the general tax rate. So Owen's the same way. But it's still, you still got to go through it. You got to know what's happening, and to his point, make sure there's enough in the fund balance when, people are cutting the cord now. So we need to prep for that. Thank you.
Worthy of note on that, and just if I could, the recent year trend, and I'm really trying to look closely at the the true trend, because just a few years ago, in 2020 actually, we finished off
Excuse me.
the contract renewal, which increased our revenue from the 3.5 incrementally.
Yep.
So we saw that rise, and then just as we were getting used to that, now we're seeing a reduction, and we're really pretty much back to where we were before the increase, or at least heading there quickly. So that's what's concerning.
Councilor, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a question and a statement. One of my pet peeves, I had mentioned this either last meeting or a couple meetings ago, was just the dearth of coverage of local events and local committees and boards. So I'm excited to see you mention that meeting summaries. I think that'll be, if people go to it, could have a great benefit. And this is a question I thought, so I don't expect an answer tonight because I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, is on revenue, and I'm certain you probably had these discussions with Dave, is trying to identify sources of revenues or methodologies of revenues to replace the cable franchise fees. And with that, does that also involve any changes at the state level legislatively, maybe in a couple of years?
So I'll give you a brief cursory answer to that. I just relieved my tenure by not running for re-election for president. I served as president for the New Hampshire Coalition for Community Media. So we've got 40 member stations statewide. I also now serve on the Alliance for Community Board as well, so representing those New England towns or states. And with our experience and education from the National Alliance for Community Media, we've certainly worked and attended workshops, and this is not a new phenomenon that we're experiencing. We've all looked at things like fee-based services, include whether it's a remote production or whether it's folks coming in and producing. We just don't have the numbers here in town for that. Right. If you're in Boston, you could probably do something with that, but just scale-wise, we wouldn't have enough to support. We're excited about the opportunities that exist with the low-power FM. Low-power FM, we can seek out sponsorships for that, and I'm excited to see what local businesses and the medical sector, for example, the finance sector, other nonprofits that want to get their voice out. We have many opportunities to provide thanks and mention them on the air for sponsoring us. However, rough numbered bag of the napkin math and even some spreadsheets, I'm not able to see the numbers to match where we are now.
Right.
Never mind. It should be said, we really need more. We need more than what we've got now, with the vision that we've got and the trajectory that we've got. Being realistic, we need to at least maintain where we are now.
And I know that the YouTube side is pretty small.
In terms of monetization.
Yeah, in terms of monetization, but you just had mentioned sponsorships on the radio. I don't know if you'd be able to monitor, just again, random thinking, might be totally out of my ass, not practical. Is monetization through sponsorship on the YouTube side?
Stations across the country are managing and handling that differently, depending on where you ask, because in the days of cable only, the rules were different, and the rules were, you as an independent producer could get sponsored, so that your fees, but in order, an actual channel being sponsored is kind of in a gray area and has been for almost a decade. So it's kind of move forward at your own risk. However, there's been no evidence of any enforcement or any response to that at any level. So tread at your own risk, I guess would be the answer for that. On the LPFM, it is explicitly allowed. And so that's why strategically we took the opportunity to acquire that station. One of the main reasons anyway.
I just have a quick comment. And a quick question.
Uh-huh.
The comment is, you talk about your team does a great work.
Yes.
I had the opportunity to watch a program being recorded, and it brought me back to my high school days when I was an engineer at my high school TV station. My question is you operate the cable and FM station. You operate that AM 1610, or is that debunked?
AM 1610, we do not operate that.
Okay,
I
I'm
don't
just curious.
really have any, I'm not sure
I
if
think
it's
that's through
debunked.
emergency management.
That's the emergency management? All right, I was just curious. I see the signs around town, and
Right.
I know in the past, it used to be program on it all the time, and now
Right.
it's not there, so I didn't know if you guys operate it.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up. Very briefly, that's another major reason, not only for the opportunity for sponsorship into the organization, but also in the event of emergency operations, we want to be able to tie in with fire, police, so that whatever they're transmitting on their AM can be translated to this FM, a stronger signal. And which effectively, I've done the drive several times under weather conditions. We pretty much hit all four corners of town.
Right.
You can pretty much drive to any border. East area we've got some shadowing over there with Warner Hill, et cetera, and it gets the terrain is a little up, but yeah, up to the 293 split, Ryan's Hill, Auburn, Four Corners in Londonderry. We pretty much hit everybody in town.
Cool. Is there any other further questions from the council?
Seeing none, I'll move a bottom line of 548, 249.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Keckman to move the bottom line, second by Council Spencer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? See none, thank you.
Thank you.
We have last but not least, the TIF districts.
Okay, the TIF district budget starts on page 497, and similar to the cable, these districts are funded outside of the general tax base. It's a tool given to us by the state legislature, is before the districts are established, the properties and the taxes generated the same as everybody else in the community, whereby a portion goes to the town, a portion goes to the school, a portion goes to the county. Once the council establishes a TIF district, then any increases in value which generate additional dollars are put in a separate fund to fund a development plan approved by the council. Historically, we've had two TIF districts here in town. First was the old Ash Street, which used for infrastructure improvements for the industrial park, which is a great success story. The second one was the Manchester Road, which also was for infrastructure and road improvements for the new Walmart development. And in recent years, the council has expanded both of those because each district, it can be as large as 5% of the town's land mass, or it can consume 8% of the assessed value. So it's 5 and 8. All your TIF districts combined can't be more than 10% of your land mass and can't be more than 16% of your assessed valuation. So the council saw an opportunity there, and first in 2019, the Manchester Road TIF district was expanded all the way down through Crystal, a little bit to the bridge on Birch, then heading west on East Broadway, then West Broadway to the Opera House, and that became the Dairy Commerce Corridor TIF district. And then a couple of years later, with the impending arrival of the Exit 4A corridor, the council expanded the Ash Street district to be the Gateway district, which includes pretty much the pre-existing, I'll have a map in a minute, and then it also includes the Exit 4A corridor. So looking at Dairy Commerce Corridor TIF first, again, this is all the downtown and Manchester Road all the way up to the Londonderry line. Currently, the budget supports one full-time DPW employee, a half a full-time employee in the Parks Department for Hood Park. It also funds 11% of the Economic Development Office, and all those activities you see in the downtown, whether it's seasonal activities and economic development and marketing, and all the public works activities of trash removal, street sweeping, taking care of trees, things of that nature. Also, there's currently one debt service associated with this TIF district, and that is the debt the council voted on for the infrastructure improvements over by Walmart. Mark, 3 or 4 years ago, successfully renegotiated that debt, not for a longer term, but for the last 10 years at 1.6%. Any balance in the fund currently stays in the TIF district, but it's put into the actually the DCC, Redevelopment and Infrastructure expendable trust, and that's the fund which will really help us with the Abbott Court process. We also fund about $75,000 a year to repave streets and sidewalks within the district. And again, our primary goal is to provide additional parking in the downtown with the Abbott Court development. The Abbott Court development should be before the planning board in May. Phase 1 is 117 market rate rental units with 300 space parking garage inside. Essentially, the units will be wrapped around the garage, so you really can't see the garage from downtown. That separate lot of Abbott Court, the town owns 4 lots. They have 3 are contiguous. There's another corner lot behind it. That's going to end up being 20 walk-up market rate rental units with first floor commercial and retail. The vision is to have the town own and finance the parking garage. We'll be leasing about 48% of the spaces to the Abbott Court development, so 52%, which is over 150 spaces, will be available to merchants and patrons of the downtown, or maybe additional developments once the debt service is paid. And we expect that we'll be receiving about $1.1 million in development payments towards that project, and $845,000 in parking revenues once those development payments are completed. But the goal, again, is that the entire debt service of Abbott Court parking will be paid from TIF district revenues. We think we have 2 options now, is to do the taxable portion. The portion owned or leased to a private developer is known as a private activity bond, and you cannot use tax-exempt bonding for that. They're going to be taxable municipal bonds. The public portion, the 52%, can be tax-exempt bonds. And we do know at this point that, the benefit is if you go to a 10-year debt service and your debt is paid, then you can transition some of that public parking to additional private activity if the public parking demand is not there. But we don't think we have the cash flow to look at a 10-year bond. We're probably looking at a 20-year bond. But here's the conceptual design. Right now you're flying over Merchants Row, where Sabadino's to your left you can't see. You can see the rail trail to your top left. And so the vision is to have the vehicles come in, go into the garage, which is wrapped by the units, and there's a way to go out through the back and out that way. And there is the map. The blue was the original Manchester Road TIF district, and it was expanded down to include Hood Park to comprise of the Dairy Commerce Corridor Tax Increment Financing District. On the gateway, it's the same premise. Which funds some of the marketing for the district, not a lot of money. 5% of the Economic Development Office is paid from this fund. There's 1 DPW employee. We also have a truck which we funded in FY25. It's in committed fund balance. Once the exit 4A corridor is completed, we'll purchase that truck. That employee will be responsible. As you remember, we're going from 2 lane miles to some places 6 and 8 lane miles. It's going to be a lot more maintenance, so it's an appropriate expense to be paid from the TIF district. The other 2 major expenses will be to complete the rail trail. This last budget the council approved was for design of the rail trail, and NHDOT covered 80% of that cost. And we're hopeful that in FY27 or 28, NHDOT will cover 80% of the construction costs. But as we know, there's a lot of policy changes in DC, so we don't know where that's going to land at this point. The other major investment is to look at the redevelopment on the north side of Folsom after 4A is completed for some additional economic development. So you can see here is the purple was the original district, and then it was expanded significantly as part of the Gateway TIF district. So the total budgets are $2,685,178. And again, at this point in the lives of these districts, that simply reflects the revenues coming in. Once you finish your development plan, the council will make a policy decision whether you add additional projects or you return some of what they call captured assessed value. So that base you started with increases, so some of those tax dollars are shared with the school and the county in addition to the town. So you see the breakdown, but we currently have the budget structured as one TIF district budget, so the appropriation we're requesting is $2,685,178.
Any questions from the council?
Nope, very familiar with at least one of these. I make a motion to move the bottom line as requested by the town administrator.
Second.
Motion by Counsel McEachran, second by Counsel Spencer. All in favor? Aye. Any objections? See you none. Thank you.
Okay. Just a reminder, the next budget workshop begins at 8:30 on Saturday, dealing with fire, police, animal control, and public works.
Oh,
Awesome.
boy.
Thank you.
That's good. I just want to make a quick comment. I just want to thank all town administrator, the incoming town administrator, the CFO, and all the department heads and the directors for working on a very nice budget so far. So I just want to thank them. Any councils have any comments?
Motion to adjourn if I see no comments.
Second.
A motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.